Got it?
Yeah.
All right, help us out, please.
Ghatadi rupam yadi tena grihate manaha pravritam bahuda swavrittibihi ashuddha chidrupa vikara doshata metar yatha varayatum na paryate. If, according to you, the mind which assumes various forms like those of jars and other things, through its modification, be not illumined by the self, the defects in it, in the forms of impurity, non-consciousness, and change, cannot be prevented like those in the mind.
Yes. So the issue here, Shankara is largely in dialogue with the Buddhists, and most specifically the Shunyavadins, the followers of Sangha. What is that particular viewpoint? The viewpoint is that consciousness itself is dependently arising with the phenomenal world, and consciousness itself is malleable and temporary. From the viewpoint of the Vedantins, it's a gross misunderstanding of the Buddhist doctrine of no self. From the viewpoint of the Vedanta, the doctrine of no self is no different than the Vedantic notion of the impermanence of ahankara, jiva bhavana, the personal sense of self. And what here Shankara is talking about is it feels like I am happy, I am sad, I am good, I am bad, I am anxious, I am serene. And what happens in the subtle intellect, in the Vijnana Maya Kosha, there's this function called karta, the sense of agency, the doer. And what it does is it attributes to the self the qualities of the not self. Now listen carefully. That is impermanent. In other words, in deep sleep, it's completely gone. It's also gone in samadhi. So it's gone in the dream state. In the dream state, the mind assumes the dream body, the dream ego attached to or identified with it. It assumes in that dream body what I call a locus of perception, a place from which I look out at the dream world. And I see the dream objects, and I have dream perception, I have dream eyes, dream ears, etc. Upon awakening, I see it's all just mind that did all that. Vedanta thunders, this is no different, and is impermanent. Something there is that always illumines it. It illumines the presence of the phenomena and its absence. So if a Shunyavadin, a scholiast of the voice, says, oh, I have been in deep meditation and there's no self, there's nothing, it all disappeared. Then the Vedantin says, well, I agree with you, something disappeared. Who knew it though? Because you cannot see its arising or its destruction unless there's a substratum that illumines it. We can prove this very simply in our everyday world. Did I have breakfast this morning? Mahip, did I have breakfast this morning? You do not know. Why?
Not here.
You were not here. Did you sleep well last night?
Yes, very well.
So you must have been there to know it.
Yes.
In deep meditation, have you seen your mahipness disappear?
Yes.
So you saw it rise and fall.
Yes.
If you get triggered, you see it come back.
Yes.
Something there is that's the witness of the various states of the mind and its absence. But that pure chit is nirupaham. It has no qualities, no form. Nirmalam has no taint. What is it? Chidakasha, the space of pure awareness. So in a mind made pure, made quiet through practice, in those moments between the thoughting, with the attentive faculty turned within, you don't see a person in there. You go looking for this individual person with qualities, it falls. But something remains. Just the sound of the traffic moving through emptiness. Yet that emptiness shines as pure awareness. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Yatha vishuddham gaganam nirantaram na sajjate napi cha lipyate tatha samasta bhuteshu sadaiva teshvanvayam samaha sadatma yajaro maro bhayaha. Just as the pure and limitless ether does not get attached nor tainted, so the self is always the same in all beings and free from old age, death, and fear.
So this classic understanding, like space, if I have the coffee mug, whatever happens to the mug does not affect the space. Whatever happens to the coffee does not affect the space. The coffee mug is like the physical body. The coffee is like the subtle body. But you are like the space in the cup. I always do the magic trick. Room space, cup space. Now watch it carefully. Did I move space? Oh no, I gotta catch up and get back in the cup. No. Actually, there's not really space in the cup. The cup is in space. Likewise, the gross body, the subtle body are in consciousness. Now, it feels like I'm in the body. But let's go back to the dream state. It feels like I'm in the dream body. That's my experience. But upon awakening, I see, oh, no. The dream was in me. I was not in the dream. Vedanta thunders, this is no different. It seems like I am in the body. The body, mind, intellect is in me. I am aware of the room from my viewpoint as an individual. You are aware of your environment from your viewpoint. I'm aware of my body. You are aware of your body. I'm aware of my thoughts and feelings. You are aware of your thoughts and feelings. But if at any time we quieten the mind, introvert the attention, and notice the knower, I look behind my eyes, as it were. There's nothing there except the space of pure consciousness. And even though your body, your feelings, your thoughts are different than mine, when you look behind your eyes, there's just the space of consciousness. So imagine I have two cups with space in them. If I go like this cup says, you took my space. You know, get out of the way. My space is supposed to be there. No. No. The self in you is not like the self in me. There's not a bunch of little Purushas running around. There's only Purushottama, the ultimate essence of personness. What makes you, you? Not your body, that changes. Not your feelings, they change. Not your thoughts. You are a conscious, sentient being. You are Baba, not just Sat, Baba. Any thoughts on this?
Can I ask?
Please.
So I'm just trying to put my experience, I put this into my experience. So when I notice sensations arising in the body has sensations and feelings, they come up. And then this my body, this my also comes up as a feeling. Let's say that it's the ego feeling. It just gets, it's so sticky, it gets stuck to the other sensations. That's how it feels like. And then I just look for this me, and I don't find it.
Mm-hmm.
So the sensation just remains a sensation. The body just remains a body.
And that's temporary too. Where does it go when you go to sleep?
I mean, it's gone then.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put this into current right now. What I'm explaining. When the mind dissolves, then the sensation is just arising sensations. There's no my sensation there.
And
there's no my body.
If you have the thought, my sensation, can you see that it's not a real thought?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
That's the point.
Yes.
Then whether it arises or doesn't arise becomes immaterial.
Yes.
Otherwise, we get caught in what we call mirror wiping. Is this an expression you've heard?
cleaning the, yes,
So in some of the Buddhist traditions, the sense like the crystal clear mind is like a mirror in which your self nature is reflected. If you think of the ancients, actually that mirror wasn't silver glass, it was polished metal. So there's this wonderful, you've got to keep it clean, do the tapas. But when you look into a mirror and you see your reflection and then you walk away from the mirror, does your face fall off? No. So the existence of your face is not dependent looking into the mirror of the empty mind. The empty mind in which your essential nature becomes evident, we would call that nirvikalpa samadhi, is of value. It reveals your essential nature. But the existence of the mind doesn't make you disappear. Then you're just simply the witness. Lena drops the baby. Ah! You see that. You haven't gone anywhere. And you now know who you really are. Now, Swamiji used to say the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. When I absolutely know I am that witnessing consciousness, and I see that my knowledge of that is not dependent on I be my balls and the mind is quiet. That's a value at one level of our sadhana. But the scriptures say, now drop your attachment even to samadhi. In the most ordinary mind state, you still are. You are, even when you're not thinking the thought, I am Brahman. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Ramana Maharshi says it is like your current understanding of your body. You never doubt that you have a human body. You're not like the character in the Kafka short story who wakes up thinking he's a cockroach or a centipede. I can't remember which it is. It never happens. You have a human body. You don't have to think that thought all the time, nor do you have to be looking in the mirror all the time. So don't be afraid of your mind. Your mind, love what Gita says. For the person in ignorance, the mind is my enemy. For the person in wisdom, the mind is my friend. Now, what is the dharma of the mind? The dharma of the mind is it is a pleasure seeker, pain avoider mechanism. It will not leave its dharma. You get up in the morning, you seek the good. That's all you ever do. And avoid misery. Can you find any activity of the mind other than that?
No.
That's it. The doubt is where the heck is the good? And one of my favorite images, one of you may be able to bring it up on your phone, is of Hanuman embracing Lord Ram. Have you ever seen that image? What does it mean? Hanuman is the mind. And Ram, of course, is the self. How can the mind find serenity? How does it find peace? Second chapter of Gita, verse 55. When a person casts off all the desires of the mind, in the end, it's about renunciation. Not just that. I cast off all the desires of the mind every night, take an Ambien, and I'm done. No, that's not yoga. And is satisfied in the self by the self. So the yogi learns to abide, who's a full knower of the Supreme, who has retired into the Supreme, is how Shankara puts it. Is that useful? Good questions. Anybody else in Zoom land have a question? Next verse.
Amurta murtani cha karma vasana rishi swarupasya bahihi prakalpitaha avidyaya yatmani mudha drishti pirapohya netit yava sheshito drishi. The elements with and without forms and the seat of desires superimposed through delusion by ignorant people on the self are thrown out of it, which consists of consciousness only, on the authority of the Vedic evidence, quote, not this, end quote. The self alone is then left over.
Yes. So as Shankara always does when he puts forward a practice and a philosophical principle, he footnotes. That's part of the tradition. He then says the authority for this way of practice, this way of viewing things, is the scriptural injunction, neti, neti, not iti, not iti, not this, not this. Now, it's always phrased in pairs. We never say just neti, and we don't say neti, neti, neti. It's always neti, neti. Why? Because the negation has to take place at two levels, the personal or the microcosmic level and the macrocosmic level. So this is the practice. I have a physical body, the meat lump. The infinite has a physical body. The Jagat, the phenomenal universe. Ultimate reality is not my physical body. It is not this phenomenal universe. Not this. I have a subtle body, a world of thoughts and feelings and images and memories and judgments, etc. The infinite has a subtle body. We call it the total mind. The technical term for that is Hiranya Garbha, the golden egg. It's all the thoughts and feelings and images and judgments and memories that have ever been thoughted and felt, and whoever can be thoughted and felt, the total mind. It becomes how the universe comes into being. That's why we use the image of an egg. The bird matures in the egg and comes out. That's like the phenomenal universe comes out of the egg. But ultimate reality is not my thoughts and feelings, including any personal sense of self. On the macrocosmic level, all the thoughts and feelings are not real. They're just thoughts and feelings. Well, what about these horrible people running the universe? Mithya, illusion, seen but not real. Think of it like a movie. You go see the movie in the theater, and you may laugh and cry along with the characters, but it doesn't touch you. You as an individual have a bundle of vasanas, a karana sharira. The infinite has a bundle of vasanas, an infinite bundle of vasanas. What was it that was the cause of the Big Bang? And the scriptures call it Ishvara. Ishvara is the name we use. Ishvara means the Lord, for the total vasana. But not this. So when I negate the physical body, when I negate the subtle body, when I negate the causal body, who am I? Chidananda Rupaham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am the form of bliss consciousness. I am Shiva. I am auspiciousness. And when we negate the phenomenal universe, the subtle universe, and even Ishvara, the cause of it all, what remains? Brahman. What is the nature of Brahman? Prajnanam Brahman. Brahman is consciousness. Now listen carefully. That witnessing consciousness that I experience is I. And that Brahman, which is the ground of being of the whole universe, they are the same thing. So the way Yoga Vasishta frames our doubts boils it down to three questions. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? Who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. What is this phenomenal world? It too is Brahman. But what about all the names and forms? How'd they get here? By means of sankalpa, by means of imagination. Not mine as an individual. If you drop dead, Betelgeuse, the star, continues to be. That's Ishvara's dream. But the methodology is the same. And then yoga thunders. Ishvara does not dream the world at us and to us, but as us and through us. We participate in this process. Own series of deeply rooted beliefs. That's why two people can apparently be in the same world, but see two different worlds. One person, oh, it's a terrible world. It's scary out there. Oh, 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 oh. Another person says, oh, but I live and move and have my being in God. I live in a synchronous universe. I have God shots all the time. Which is true. Any thoughts on this? So this is the classic exegesis of Neti Neti. How to use it. So what is the way to use it in a condensed, useful form? If I can be aware of it, that isn't it. If I can be aware of it, it's not really there. In Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapada Karika in the second chapter, in the fourth Karika, Gaudapada says the phenomenal world is quite unreal. The proof of its unreality is that it is seen. Only the subject is real. Only the subject is never subject to negation. It is the same yesterday, today, and forever, as the Hebrew scripture says. In the Hebrew scripture, Moses goes up to the mountain, Mount Sinai, and there's the story of God talking to him out of the burning bush. And in the old-timey days, if you knew the name of a god, then you had a chance of controlling it, the ritual. So Moses says, who shall I say sent me? What's your name, dude? I'm going to have a name to control this god. And God answered, I am that I am. Tell them, I am has sent you. I am is not God's name. It's not like Im's dog food. You find out who I is. You find out who God is. It's right there in Genesis. Next verse.
Prabodharupam manasorthayojanam smritaucha suptasya cha drishyatorthavat tathaiva deha pratimanatah prigadrishe shariram cha manascha drishyatah. The impressions of the objects known in the waking state, owing to the contact of the mind with them, are perceived like real objects in the memory and dream. So the body, the mind, and their impressions are different from the self as they are objects of perception.
Yes. So I think that I am inside the body and I am an individual knower and I have sense perception knowing, and then I contact something outside, an object of knowledge. That's my experience. Here Shankara is saying, you have the same experience in the dream. And what he's saying is that individual sense of knower and the sense perception, the knowing, and the object of perception are just mind. Best image I've come up with to explain it is the subtle intellect is like a prism. Sun is shining, the light of the sun is one and unchanging. But when it strikes a prism, which is like the subtle intellect, if I have a piece of white paper underneath the prism, what do I get? I get a rainbow, all these various different colors. So when consciousness strikes the subtle intellect, what appears is an individual knower, and the senses, the knowing, and the objective world, the know. But it's all just consciousness appearing as name and form. Now, our metaphor falls apart in a way. The prism seems like a solid thing. What Mandukya says about this apparent prism of the mind is like the alata, the firebrand. Fourth chapter of the Karika is called the alata shanti, the quenching of the firebrand. So on Diwali or 4th of July, if I have a sparkler at night and I make a circle, it looks like there's a circle, or I can make a figure eight. It looks like there's a figure eight. But is the circle or the figure eight like fishing line in the fishing reel? You know, if you go fishing, you go, and out the end of the rod comes fishing line. And then you go, and the fishing line comes back. Is that what happens? Is the circle and the figure eight inside the sparkler? No. It's an optical illusion. When the point of the sparkler moves, my vision sees a circle and a figure eight. But I can't grab the circle and the sparkler and say, I have a glowing crown. Look at that. No. Is it really there? And when I stop moving the sparkler, where does the circle go? So when the thoughting ceases, we call them vikalpa. When you are near vikalpa, without vikalpa, the individual knower of the world, the knowing of the world, and the world itself disappear. Just like the tip of the sparkler remains, you mind returns from samadhi, and you are sa vikalpa, with movement. Now listen carefully. We have two, more than two, but we have two images in scripture that talk about this superimposition. Snake in the rope, mirage waters in the desert. Snake in the rope is like Nirvikalpa Samadhi. In Nirvikalpa Samadhi, mind is gone, I alone remains. When I examine the snake, there's no snake there, there's a rope. The snake is not available for perception. No snake, just rope. But sahaja samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi, is rooted in knowledge. When I firmly know I'm not a person, this world is like a hologram. That is like the mirage waters in the desert. When I'm in ignorance, I see the mirage. My perception is water and my knowledge is water. When I figure out that it's a mirage, still looks like water, but my knowledge is sand. So also, for the sthita prajna purusha, the person of steady wisdom, their senses report a world of name and form. Their senses report a body, feelings, thoughts. They see this karta, this agent. I made breakfast this morning. I went here. I did that. It doesn't mean like that. You're not sitting in a corner drooling in your diaper. But the person of steady wisdom knows, seen, but not real. Just as the mirage waters in the desert have no power either to quench your thirst or to drown you, so the person of steady wisdom knows ultimately nothing in this world is anything more than just imagination. There's no real peace out there. There's no real misery out there. Peace is my mind ceasing its craving, its control issues. Misery is when my mind gets caught up in craving, expectation, aversion. The fool plays whack-a-mole with the world. I like this, give me more of that. I don't like that, let me beat it down. The yogi knows, mind extroverting, let it go. Mind coming home. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
स्वभाव शुद्धे गगने घनादिके मले पयाते सति चा विशेषता यथा च तद्वच्छु तिवारि तद्वये सदा विशेषो गगनोपमे दृशौ. Just as impurities like clouds, etc., do not produce any alteration in the naturally pure ether by their appearance or disappearance, so there is never any alteration in the ether-like consciousness free from duality negated by the Shruti.
So he doesn't, I mean, the translation is strange. Gagana, isn't that the word for sky?
Also used for clouds.
But the idea is the clouds do not alter the space. Uses the word ether. What do you mean is space? So also in the beginning, I'm working on thought replacement. If I have negative trains of thinking, I want to do thought replacement. Move the mind into more positive trains of thinking. Ultimately, I do jnana abhyasa, the thought of knowledge, to counteract my thoughts of ignorance, which are habituated. But in the end, the person of steady wisdom gives up control of the mind. It's deep understanding, fundamental unreality of the mind. Meaning, my thoughts aren't real. My thoughts never touch me. My thoughts aren't about me. Just as the clouds never soil, alter, change the sky. And what's the truth about all clouds? Impermanence. What's the truth about all mind states? Impermanence. Get out. Get out. Polarizing. That's we talked a bit back about sankalpa, the world coming about by sankalpa. When I start to attribute reality to a thought, that becomes a sankalpa, and it concretizes. It literally becomes reified to me. It becomes more and more real. Unbelieve the mind. It starts to thin out. Becomes diaphanous. I was listening to a fellow last night, and he was talking about he had this experience where all of a sudden he says, my head was empty, I thought there was something wrong because all those anxiety thoughts and worrying thoughts and struggling thoughts and controlling thoughts, they were just gone. It was a moment of grace. And he wouldn't talk to a friend. What's the matter with me? My head's empty. So and so. That's serenity. Oh. He never had a moment without the torture of an afflicted mind. It's just, I found it very funny to hear how he put it in language. My head was empty.
It's a nice word, serenity.
Next verse.
The end of the chapter. Nanya Danya Prakaranam, chapter 15. Impossibility of one being another. Nanya Danya Bhavedhasman Danya Kinchit Vitinchate Anya Snyananya Anyasnanya Svabhavehi Nashatasya Dhruvo Bhavet. As one cannot become another, one should not consider Brahman to be different from oneself. For if one becomes another, one is sure to be destroyed.
Yes. So there are various cosmological notions that the scriptures put forward, and they are contradictory. Various philosophical schools. One of the notions we get very strongly in Hindu scripture is the doctrine of reincarnation. The doctrine of reincarnation posits that I'm a jiva, I'm an individual person, and I got issues. And I, as a jiva, need to undergo a change, an ontological change. Then there's all the mythology. How did I get here? Well, I'm a spark. God is the fire and I'm a spark. I left home to come into this world. Or God is the ocean. I am the drop. I need to return to the ocean. I'm a little individual Purusha, a little Jiva, and I gotta go home, get glued on to Brahman. All these ideas that have to do with my being undergoing a change. And it's interesting. What? 700 years ago when this was written, most people were thinking about, oh, how I'm suffering today because of my past lives. Today we say, oh, how I'm suffering today, family of origin. Oh, I was killed in a fire 3 lifetimes ago. Oh, I had an alcoholic father. No difference. It's all rooted in the idea I'm a person, and my personness needs to undergo a transformation. Why do the scriptures teach this? Because when the mind is in the deepest ignorance, the real truth is not available for direct experience. So this relative reality can bring some respite from pain. It is like you're in the dream and you think your problem is you can't get out of the house, you can't find the right door. And your mind says, I need to find a door guru to get me out of the doors, the right door. And getting out of the house in my dream seems like a real thing. But when you wake up, where does the problem go? Gone. So, Vedanta thunders the doctrine of ajati, unborn. What is self-realization? What do I realize? Mind and ignorance as the result of its direct experience does not have the realization, oh, I, the person, am now fixed. I, the person, am now enlightened. I, the person, am a super person. Touch my feet. No. The mind of the intellect realizes, oh, I never was bound. It was all just a very long and very vivid dream. I have not changed at all. The mind has changed profoundly. So the self doesn't get realized. Self is ever free, always has been. Even in the midst of my deepest misery, I do not ever get bound. It's like a dream. It's like hypnosis. It's just a mind state. And the implications of this are profound, because in the state of ignorance, I always think I need to do something to get better. Only if I move from Chicago to Los Angeles. If only I get more schooling. If only I have a purer diet. Or the opposite. I can't do this. I can't do that. And what self-realization gives us is the movie never touches me. Whether it's a romantic comedy or a Stephen King horror film, it never touches me and never did. The antidote to my problem is jnanam, knowledge, because the root of my problem is avidya. ignorance. Ignorance is not destroyed by action. Ignorance is destroyed. Here we don't mean just information. We mean knowledge based on direct experience. Any thoughts on this? Okay, next one.
Smarato drishyate drishtam pate chitram ivapitam yatra yena chatau gyeyo sattva kshetragya sangyakau. Things seen in the waking state are seen like a picture painted on a canvas when one remembers them. Those by and in which they are so seen are respectively known to be the individual self and the intellect.
So the mind creates this feeling that I'm an individual. It creates a world of name and form and the sense of doership in it. And what Shankara is saying is, it's like pictures painted on a canvas. So if we all look at Krishna up there, I see Lord Krishna, I see the gopis, I see the peacocks. They are other than me. Likewise, I see a phenomenal world. I know the body. I know the feelings. I know the thoughts. I know the rising of Ankara. I know the cessation of Ankara. Just passes in front of me. Joking before class, I go nowhere. Whole universe passes in front. And I have a relationless relationship with it all. It cannot function without me illuminating. Yet it never touches me. Very famous poetic line, Sanguham, 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 Puna Puna, Satchidananda Rupa, Aham Me Vyaham Avyaya, unattached, unattached, unattached am I again and again. I love that because when we're doing sadhana, I have to keep remembering it. Oh, Satchidananda Rupa. My form is pure existence, pure consciousness. This ends. Aham evaham. I am that I am. All right, we'll quit here. Any final thoughts, questions, comments?
It seems to me that the previous verse where you said that, the antidote is knowledge. The reason why we tend to have that notion that I need to take time and, something will happen and then I will get to a better place. I wonder if that's because of the physical world seems to be that way, where, if I do a bunch of things, if I practice, then I will, maybe have a better, fitter body, or I invest in some endeavor, it will be successful. Like there seems to be a relationship to effort and outcome. In the case of the mind, it doesn't seem to be so, where it
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, we have what we call purushartha, my own self-effort for sadhana.
right.
And we do need to go through stages of effort, abhyasa. But you're going to the gym. And I assume you're getting some benefits from it.
Yeah.
I have news for you. It's impermanent.
Right. But I mean, when the insight happens, that seems to be sort of an instantaneous insight, rather than, sure, there might have been some things in the past that have led to the insight being available, or being, mind being able to grasp it.
You're absolutely right.
So then when you say,
you either see it or you don't.
right.
And you may continue to practice, but you won't know any more self. And your mind may get pure for a period of time. And then you might have some blissful experiences. And then you come back to the world, and the next thing you know, there you are in the mind again. And well, again, let me share with you, you've probably heard me say this before. There's a wonderful little book called The Spiritual Teachings of Ramana Maharshi. It's the one with the prologue, or the foreword, by Carl Jung. And there's a very subtle section of it. One of Bhagawan's disciples say, to which of the stages of knowledge does the jnani belong? And the reference is to the 7 stages of knowledge in Yoga Vasishtha. And Bhagawan says to the 4th. If you go back and look at your essence of Yoga Vasishtha, you'll see the 7 stages. 4th clearly says, knowledge of yourself. Then the disciple says, if that be so, then why have 3 more superior to it been articulated? And Bhagawan says, these are not states of bondage and release. These have to do with the experiences of the realized person. They are post-enlightenment samadhis. Then if you still got some spiritual ego, oh, I want this. I want this. And then he says, they're not to be achieved by mere will or effort. They are karmic. And in fact, if you're struggling to achieve them, you're not even a jnani.
And so by effort, he just means the struggle and not the actual.
If you practice, I want it. So for example, you're going to do all these retreats in this period where you set aside for your sadhana. Are you open to the possibility that nothing is going to happen?
Yes.
You may get high in a retreat. You may spend the whole time with your knees hurting. And at the end, nothing changed.
Right.
Because you do not change. And the mind comes and goes up and down and does its thing. Are you open to that possibility?
Yeah, I have to be.
Duh. Because, and you've heard me do this. You come home from a retreat and I say, oh, do you know more self? And what's your answer?
No.
Yeah. Now, maybe it's your prarabdha to abide more and more deeply in the self. To be a great Mahatma like Ramana Maharshi or Anandamayi I don't know. I hope so. My sankalpa, I want my students to surpass the Guru. But it's prarabdha. It's prarabdha. But I'll tell you, in the end, it's all about the renunciation of attachment. In the end, it's not how long you sit on the meditation seat. It's, do I take the world as real? And it can get thin and thinner and thinner for me. But if I still say, oh yeah, that's really cool. Or can't have that. I'm never gonna do that. Deep abidance in the self is a function of sannyas. Tense renunciation. I'm not making this up. Read the scriptures. So if I think, oh, I'm going to do a 30-day meditation retreat, but I'm going to hang on to motorcycles and 401ks and whether or not I'm fancy here and dressed well there and all that kind of business. Guess how I know this, by the way? You will never see the rope if you keep smooching that snake. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari